Have you ever been crazy enough to try to remodel your kitchen? Well, that's exactly what we're in the middle of doing here at my house. In fact, this is our family project over Christmas break. You know what? This messy, disruptive process of remodeling the kitchen is a whole lot like some of the other changes that I've been going through, some of the other things and experiences. See, I've been on a journey of sorts, and it's kind of like God remodeling my life. In fact, as I look at the process of remodeling the kitchen, there are a whole lot of things that parallel the process that God's been doing and the things that I've been experiencing over the last year, and particularly over the last few months during my sabbatical. Let me give you a few examples of how similar they are. The thing about remodeling the kitchen is we use the kitchen every single day. It's probably the busiest room in the house, in constant use by everyone. So it's pretty hard to remodel your kitchen without actually shutting it down, at least temporarily. And pretty soon, you realize that for several days you're probably going to be eating out, or at least eating out on the porch. You can't find anything because it's not really in the place where it's supposed to be. Oh, here it is. And you kind of feel like the equilibrium of your life, your whole life has been upset. Another thing I noticed, a lot of times as we're using the kitchen every day, things tend to break down. And often in the busyness of life, we tend to just ignore it, just try to get by and put up with it. But now that it's time to remodel, now is the time when you really go in and fix the things that are broken, decide that you're finally going to do something about that thing that doesn't work and never has. It's finally time to replace all the missing handles, tear out all the old appliances that don't work, and replace them with things that function the way they're supposed to. We've also noticed that remodeling projects tend to grow in scope because it's the perfect time to think beyond the way things actually are to what they could be. And so as we begin to envision that future, one day you're thinking about fixing the kitchen sink, and pretty soon it's grown into this huge project that no longer takes a weekend but is going to be a major renovation. And so you start looking around and thinking about what you could do and what the kitchen might look like, not the way that it functions right now. So for example, you might decide you want to tear out some walls, or maybe move the plumbing around if you're really adventurous, put in a new electrical outlet like we did, or make some changes that put some bright new lighting into the room. Those are the kind of things that you might not originally start with as an idea, but they tend to develop as you have time to actually dream about what might be possible. Let's face it, remodeling is a disruption, a mess, and a hassle. But hopefully when it's all over and you finally get to use your new kitchen, hopefully you realize that it was worth all the dirt and dust, it was worth the temporary going without. Well, the last few months of sabbatical have been for me a kind of messy renovation as God has been remodeling the kitchen of my life. First of all, it's been a time to shut down. I know that having a pastor on sabbatical has probably felt at least a bit disruptive for some of you. You've had to live with some changes, and usually that's challenging for us people to do. But I want to assure you how necessary it was for me to take this time offline in order for God to make some of the changes that He's been making in my life. Secondly, this has been a time to repair. Until I could escape the daily responsibilities of my role here at the church, it was easy to simply ignore those things that weren't working the way that they were supposed to in my life. And my sabbatical has been a time to be able to identify and also deal with some of those problems and come up with some solutions that make my life function the way that God wants it to work, the way that it should work. Thirdly, it's been a time to dream. I've also had the chance to be able to envision how things could be once I was able to think past the way that they were. And as I did so, the goals of my sabbatical grew in scope and in size. Some of the things, in fact, that I thought I would be doing on sabbatical, I ended up not doing at all because there were other issues of greater priority that surfaced once I got started thinking about my life. And I was even surprised by some of the things that God brought up, the discoveries that I made that I never could have imagined. Fourthly, this is hopefully now a time when we can really enjoy the changes. As I look back on all the mess and disruption and hassle of my sabbatical, you know, I also have a very deep sense of satisfaction about just how valuable and necessary this time has been for me as a person, for me as a pastor, and for us as a church. And now, as you get to observe some of the changes that God has been making in my life, I hope that that will be your conclusion as well. Today, we're starting a brand new series called Chip 2.0. And over the next few months, what I'd like to do is take you on a tour of my new kitchen, not this kitchen, but rather the kitchen of my life. I want to tell you about God's remodeling process with me. You'll notice, by the way, that I'm still under construction. God still has plenty of things going on in my life, projects that He's doing as He continues to remodel and shape me into an imitation of the character traits of Jesus Christ. But let me begin by telling you what He's been doing lately. So, Chip, if you're there, would you take it from here?